where we have to make sure that this animal welfare bill is indeed an animal welfare bill.
Now she has given red warning.
Animals can't fight for their rights.
It must be defeated. My name is Senaka Veeraratna. I'm an attorney at law, and I'm also the former honorary legal consultant to the Sri Lanka Law Commission on Animal Welfare Legislation. I drafted the Law Commission Animal Welfare Bill for the members of the Law Commission. We are here today united with one aim: to prevent the enactment of an inhumane and draconian bill of parliament disguised as the Animal Welfare Bill, but in full the antithesis of the original Animal Welfare Bill proposed by the Law Commission and later verbatim duplicated in the private members' bill tabled by Venerable Athureliya Rathana in Parliament. It was in October, and there is a bill of Parliament with all full details of the bill that is available on the internet, which I have a copy now, and that was published in October 2010 under the name of Venerable Rathana as the proposer. Now, I'm repeating here, but I would like to repeat here the very nice statement by Dr. Maneka Gandhi, and I think this is very relevant. She says that this bill, we are all against this bill 2022, and she puts it in a very eloquent form. This act should be one of the finest in the world because you could learn from the mistakes made by the Indian Prevention of Cruelty to Animals Act of 1960. However, in the last 6 decades, we have done much to improve it by bringing an additional acts. Instead, you are bringing in an act which will increase the suffering of animals and make the animal welfare movement, which is growing fast, much weaker. None of the amendments to the Act of 2022 is going to help animals. They are clearly going to help the lobbies that exploit animals cruelly. The Act exempts animals slaughtered for food from being in its ambit of protection. Anyone who has seen the way slaughterhouses treat animals, the way pigs are stabbed repeatedly after being kept in miserable conditions and have their hair pulled out manually to be sold for paintbrushes before killing them, the way chickens are carried upside down and have their throats slit while their heads are squeezed under feet, to see calves crowded into trucks and repeatedly hammered to death, to see cows being injected daily by a drug called toxin so that they go into labor pains twice a day and their milk gushes out. It is useless to make an act protecting dogs and cats and guinea pigs when 90% of the violence on animals is on farm animals. This is utterly retrograde. He's talking about this act, this bill. In India, all experiments on animals are forbidden in schools and college teaching centers, and the CSEA is a body that regulates any research that involves animals. Most experiments are now through computers. Your act exempts live animals in experiments from protection, allowing them to be used in teaching or any experiment without any regulation or thought of their well-being. There are international guidelines for accepting any research, and unless Sri Lanka adopts the 3 R's, replacement, reduction and refinement, and switches to alternatives, most of your research will not be accepted in science anywhere in the world. So we have a situation where, now she has given a red warning that even if you continue or conduct research using live animals for so-called experiments, you risk those results of those experiments being rejected by the international community because you are not being following the modern standards, the international standards, despite this primitive act, this inhumane act allowing you to do so. So it will be a waste of lives and it will be a waste of effort, both ways. Shame, and this is something that our government should be made aware of, that all these experiments, all the leeway given to the so-called scientists of this country to use live animals will not produce proper real results, because the international community will reject them because they have been used in animals by not following the guidelines, despite this act allowing such a church. So it's a shame. It will bring another international slur on the reputation of Sri Lanka. And this is something these people who have brought in, lifted the precautions, lifted the protections we have given in the 2006 Animal Welfare Bill, do not seem to have known. And also another thing that is very important for people in Sri Lanka, Maneka Gandhi has said it beautifully. India has banned the use of animals in cosmetics. We have even stopped cosmetics from being sold that have been experimented abroad. But now you have, in this new act, allowed the use of live animals in experiments on cosmetics. Are you going back 30 years? Do you want Sri Lankan monkeys to eat 50 lipsticks at a time till they die, or rabbits to have hairspray put into their eyes in the dry test till they break their neck struggling against the pain? So this is what Maneka Gandhi has said, and she has said it much better than anyone else so up to now. And if this country, the leaders who have to follow some of the guidelines given by India, I mean that has always been the trend, we will also lose the sympathy and support we are getting from India when we are in difficulty. So it is not a decision for the draftsman of this, but it's a decision for the lawmakers at the highest level not to ignore the voices for reason and compassion coming from India. So I am told, it also talks about the cultural events. Cultural events also, now say we have animal sacrifice. We are talking of Perahera, but Perahera, animals are injured, animals are affected. But more importantly, there are animals who are being killed in so-called animal sacrifice, which the Buddha condemned. Animal sacrifice, which is used for in certain religious festivals. In their hundreds, it's animal not sacrifice, it's animal genocide. And we don't say anything. So you are using elephant, and I'm telling, I'm not in favor of elephants being abused, but some people are using the elephants as a pretext to ridicule Buddhism as a cultural practice, to put Buddhism to shame, and it's happening all the time, as if elephant is the only animal valuable enough for the society to take an interest in. So many. Actually, the most abused animal in this country is the cow, the cattle. If you go to the slaughterhouse, you will see. So anyway, Maneka Gandhi has said, for all, that this act allows and condemns animals to permanent suffering without legal redress, without pretending to do the opposite. So anyway, now I'm coming back to my presentation. This has to be said, has to be recorded. That's why I read it out. Now, this booklet, I authored it, but it was greatly helped by Champa. Champa and I should really take credit for this. Without Champa Fernando's input and massive effort, this would have never seen light of day. Now, this is a comparative study of two bills of parliament. The Law Commission proposed bill, which was duplicated in a private member's bill by Venerable Rathana in 2010, and a cannibalized version. And this is the cannibalized version of that bill in the 2022 Bill of Parliament, meant to make the meat trade happy and legalize crimes, cruelty on animals. Actually, this 2022 version enshrines cruelty, gives it a legal form, enshrines cruelty with a legal umbrella. It had never happened before. So that's how we must describe it. I'm saying that publicly. The drafter, the man who has introduced the amendments, is not a man that has empathy for animals. And I'll tell you why. And one good reason, because I was instrumental in doing the 2006 bill, and you can see in the functions of the authority, there were 21 items, and they are all the ones that will bring solace, that will bring respect for the civilization of this country. And I'll tell you, this is something I must put on record. I'll mention 3 or 4. These are beautiful words which I put, and it was all agreed by the Law Commission. That is the functions of the authority. And these are 4 provisions which I'll read out. To foster kindness and compassion and responsible behavior towards animals, one of them. Second one is to advise and assist government agencies, provincial authorities, local authorities, non-governmental organizations, animal welfare society, religious institutions, and the general public to coordinate campaigns against cruelty and to advise on any matter connected with animal welfare. Now, next one is to promote education in relation to in relation to the human treatment of animals and the promotion of animal welfare. Right? And to liaise and exchange information with foreign governments, international organizations and animal welfare associations in other countries with respect to animal welfare and the prevention of all forms of animal cruelty. Now these are beautiful words. All this has been removed. All this has been removed. And what we have, they have put 5 functions for the advisory committee. Only out of the 5, only 3 have to do with animal welfare. One is to advise the government, advise the minister how to do on respect to conduct of experiments on animals, live animals. Shame. That's the way they have looked at this animal. They are trying to legalize. They are trying to put much provisions that will allow cruelty to animals and animal experiments. Now I must tell you, there's another issue. There are 2 more issues I will do. One is home slaughter. Now we put in the Law Commission Bill of Parliament a section on home slaughter, and that is very important. The whole purpose of the 2006 was to address slaughter conditions. Slaughter prior to slaughter and slaughter at the time, because much of the criticisms and the voices for animals was in respect to that the animals were badly done by in respect to slaughter. So England had stopped home slaughter campaign, and we took heed of that, and clause 38, and this is most important point, which is that we wanted to regulate slaughter and ban home slaughter. We said if you want to slaughter animals for religious purposes, then it must be done under controlled conditions. It must be done in a registered abattoir by people who are competent to slaughter animals. People with a certificate. You can't have blunt knives. You can't have women and children killing animals. So that was the purpose. And we said it can't be done in a public place. It can't be done in a private dwelling. All that we put is completely removed. The purpose of this 2022 is to completely silence, completely sideline improvement or reform of laws on slaughter. Last point I will tell you is this poultry. And these are the very dangerous ways that chicken don't get any protection. There are no voices for chickens. There are no voices for pigs. There are no voices for goats. Right? There are no voices for fish welfare. Nobody talks to them. So how can you say you have reverence for life when all the forms of life don't get any voice, don't get any moral attention? Only one animal gets most of the moral attention. That's the elephant. So I'm now going to tell you. I'll be brief on that. At least you should go on record. That is the chicken, the poultry. There's a special clause subclause in clause 18 that excludes poultry from any form of attention, any form of protection from this act. Poultry is a subject that is carefully manipulated to be outside the glaze of people of Sri Lanka. And newspapers never say anything. But in European countries, it is a subject of great interest because they are suffering in front of our eyes. And these are the abuse of chicken. Live shackle slaughter. Common method of killing factory farm chickens is known as live shackle slaughter. The chickens are hung upside down and their legs are forced into metal stirrups. So that is just mentioned. Then next one is forced molting. Forced molting, and that's allowed in this group. That is allowed. That is, you withdraw food. You can make an animal starve, because when the animal is starved and is made weaker, it's easy to execute it, kill, slaughter. And that is called forced molting. All this is described well. And there is said in this bill that you can withdraw they are prepared business by supplying food to animals. Next one is battery cages, worse form, all explained. And then you have debeaking animals. And then you have genetic manipulation. And these never ever get public attention. But I have made a study of this. I have incorporated this in outline. So these are basically my points. The good part have been covered, so I don't want to repeat what you said. But let me say my conclusion. My conclusion is, I said this. This is important. The Animal Welfare Bill of 2006 introduced a robust legal framework and powers for protecting all animals. It was destined to become an international gold standard, at least for countries in Asia. How we treat animals and the legislation we must have to govern animal welfare is a hallmark of a civilized society. Animals have always enjoyed a high priority status in our pre-colonial civilization running for over 2,500 years. That has always been a source of pride for this nation and drew a lot of respect from the neighbouring countries in South Asia and Southeast Asia. In ancient times, the inhabitants of this country, noble people, because of our caring and compassionate attitudes towards non-human living beings. This hallowed tradition should be continued. Today, we should be constantly looking to improve and refine our legislation in the area of animal welfare. It is a moral duty. Last line, the Animal Welfare Bill of Sri Lanka 2022 is a retrograde step. It must be defeated. Thank you.
I'm Tanuja Navaratna. I'm a lawyer by profession, as well as I'm a human rights and animal rights activist. I would like to start by, I would only give a brief description of this 2022 bill to explain to you why it should not be passed without amendments. So I would like to start by saying, actually this 2022 bill contains so many provisions which are contradictory to each other, so that in a court of law, if we are to seek redress for animals, it will be extremely impossible, because the interpretations will be extremely difficult, because there are so many contradictory clauses in this bill. For example, clause 1 to 17 are about all protections given to animals. But then the same bill, clause 18, takes away all the protection from certain categories of animals. They are farm animals, animals used in cultivation, slaughter of animals for food, which even gives effect to butcher's ordinance through this 2022 bill. Again, they are giving effect to butcher's ordinance. And also live animals used for experiments and training are exempted. Even the restricting of movement of elephants in public places, all these things are exempted from application of this bill, of this act. Okay, so in other words, if this is an animal, pro-animal, actually I don't like to call it a welfare bill, actually it should be animal rights bill or animal protection bill. If it is protecting animals, it should protect all the animals. You cannot exempt different kinds of animals from this act. Then the whole purpose is going to be lost of protection of animals. And then going clause by clause, I'll briefly say, clause 3, the fines, we have analyzed that the fines should be increased. Then clause 10 and 11, there is another issue, because Ayurveda Medical Council practitioners can only treat animals, not perform surgeries. That should be looked at. Then also, no Ayurveda practitioners are included in the Animal Welfare Advisory Committee. So that is also an issue. Then in clause 10, they say only a qualified veterinary surgeon or a Ayurveda Medical Council practitioner can treat animals. Then what about emergency first aid or medical treatments provision by owners sometimes to the animals? Then animal lovers sometimes have to treat some stray animals. Then what about the wildlife officials who have to give first aid to wild animals? So all this has to be considered. Then the clause 12, it speaks about testing animals on cosmetics, and it says unless for prescribed purposes it is banned. But though it says in clause 12, by clause 18, animals who are used in testing has been completely exempted from the protection of this bill. So it's another contradiction. Then when it comes to chapter 2 of transportation of animals, there are so many clauses here. Clause 19, 20, 21, which explains very nicely how the animals should be transported. But it's very cosmetic exercise just to cover up clause 18, which actually exempts so many categories of animals from the protection of this act. So actually, unless the clause 18 is removed, these clause 19, 20 and 21 would be useless. Then chapter 3, we come to clause 22 and 23. It says about use of live animals for experiments, teaching purposes. Unless we remove clause 18 from this bill, this clause 22 and 23 will actually not be applicable. And then also we should, when we are applying clause 22 and 23, it should be amended to honor the local and international standard guidelines used in research using live animals. Then I come to chapter 4, regulating the sale of animals as pets. Okay, in that there are so many clauses included in this bill. Clause 24, 25, 26, which talks about pet shops, regulations for selling in public, inspecting pet shops, all that. But this definition of pet shops includes only places which sell animals, sell pets. But what about the places which breed pets but which do not actually sell? So they are only breeding. If they are only breeding, then they don't come under this. Then breeding pets, where people are breeding pets, these regulations, those animals will not have protection through this act. Then part 2, clause 27. They have taken out the Animal Welfare Authority, which was proposed in 2006 and 2010 bills, and they have introduced the Animal Welfare Advisory Committee, which is, the composition is so that it's weighted heavily in favor of people who use animals for economic purposes and other purposes. Because if you take the composition, it's like two academics who are conducting animal experiments, one laboratory animal scientist, then two representing poultry and livestock, only 2 animal welfare people from registered organizations included in this. And the other thing is 27B1 says a veterinary surgeon actively engaged in animal welfare. But the same bill says all government veterinary surgeons are considered animal welfare officers. So if all are considered animal welfare officers, they are all engaging in active animal welfare. So then why is this particular phrase included in 27B1? Also, apart from ex officio members who are not always thinking from side of protection of animals, in this advisory committee there is no representation by animal rights advocates, there is no representation by legal experts on animal rights, or no representation by wildlife experts. Wildlife has been completely ignored, wild animals. Part 3, that comes under general provisions. Under general provisions, the clause 28, it talks about humane manner of treating animals, which is a very cosmetic provision. When you actually, by clause 18, when you have exempted so many categories of animals from getting any protection from this act. Then also I want to specifically draw attention to clause 30, which says any investigation into an animal cruelty incident should be done by animal welfare officer, which is a government vet, accompanied by police officer above the, not below the rank of SI, not below the rank of SI. So, and also it says, before doing this inspection, they have to get a warrant from the magistrate. So, anybody who knows about the execution of legal systems in this country would know, first one thing, in most of the police stations, there are only so many officers who are not below SI rank. Okay? And then also the animal welfare officers are the government veterinary. Government veterinaries are already finding it difficult to manage with their veterinary services, providing veterinary services. So how are they going to do this? And then also taking a warrant from a magistrate takes time. So all these provisions actually will delay getting redress for animal cruelty cases. And then also it says the decision to take steps, enter and inspect premises, examine books, question any person, take any photo, video, this decision to take these steps without a warrant can be taken only by the animal welfare officer. So animal welfare officer is a veterinary surgeon. So what is the, I mean, with all due respect to their profession, I am saying what is their knowledge and expertise on judicial systems and law establishment. So then how can they decide whether there should be a warrant or not? So there are lots of questions in this clause 30, lot of legal issues. Then 31, clause 31, again that says the animal welfare direction can be issued by the animal welfare officer, again the government veterinary surgeon, who is already overburdened, and he is being burdened with this as well. Then how effective will that be for animal protection? Then comes this clause 41, again another very, very important clause, because it exempts all forms of pests and animals involved in measures taken to safeguard human life, animal life or property. They are all exempted from the protection of this act. So if anybody decides, I mean, and in the interpretation the pests are not defined. So anybody decides if a certain animal is a pest and also a threat to safeguard human life, animal life or property, they don't get any protection from this act. It's a very dangerous clause 41. And also in clause 41, newly they have included another subsection to say that farming activities and cultural events are protected as long as the animals are used for these purposes without harming the animals. Okay, so that is also coming under this same 41 clause which talks about pests. Then when it comes to 44, I am talking about the interpretations. There are no definitions in the interpretation. They just say, okay, animals are such, but there is no definition to say who is a stray animal, who is a wild animal, who is an animal in captivity, who are pests. So unless there are proper definitions in an act, then when it goes to courthouse, how would a courthouse define a stray animal, wild animal, animals in captivity or pests? Apart from this, I also want to touch upon, now this bill, initial bill was, they started making it in 2000 and it was produced in 2006. So therefore, during that period, the animal rights situation in the country was quite different to what it is today. So there are certain things that this new bill should include which were not even included in the 2006 bill, because it was made to suit the particular situation at that time. Now there are so many animal welfare organizations and animal welfare people who collect funds from public who should be made accountable, transparent, and monitored to see that they are not committing animal cruelty instead of animal welfare. It's a very, very important thing. So regulations for monitoring these animal welfare organizations and animal welfare people who collect money from locally and internationally showing animals should be definitely included in this animal welfare bill. And then also in 2006 bill there was a very, very important portion which has been removed from 2022 bill, which is you all know there can be so many laws in a country, but no law will be effective unless the society changes their attitudes. So to change attitudes in society, to make people more compassionate, kind, and have empathy towards animals, in the 2006 bill there were suggestions to include compassion about animal, compassion or kindness about animals in school curriculums, as well as raising awareness. But all that has been removed from this 2022 bill. In short, as a summary, what we are saying is this 2022 bill should not be passed without amendments. And the amendments in summary should be that this bill should ensure protection of all animals. Otherwise it's not an animal rights bill, animal protection bill. Ensure that there is no room for abuse by misinterpretation or misconstruction of certain terms in the bill. Also, ensure that there is no room to prevent or block any immediate preliminary action taken on cruelty cases against animals. Also, what we are saying is ensure that there is a vibrant and efficient system in place to handle cruelty to animals. Actually, this existing system should be strengthened, but 2022 bill actually is weakening the existing system as well. Ensure that other thing we are asking is ensure that all terms used in the act are defined so that interpretations of the act will not leave room for any misinterpretation of certain terms. And also we are saying that there should be provisions included about conditions relating to methods of slaughter in step with modern standards towards minimizing the suffering of animals concerned. At last, I would like to say why we are stepping in and speaking up is because unlike humans, animals don't have a voice. So unless we talk on behalf of animals, animals can't fight for their rights. So that's why we are here. Thank you very much.
So I would like to draw attention to a recent activity where the lion lager beer, from the lion lager beer, they didn't want the lion to be exposed when they are transporting the beer. So that is how sensitive we are about the country, our image, our religion, and so on and so forth. Now, from when you come to the Constitution, we have the 9th article, which clearly says that whatever administration, whatever the existing government must respect Buddhist principles and then govern on that basis. So that is constitutionally established. Then we have Buddhism, which is from beginning to end, it talks about the well-being of animals. It is the only religion probably that gives such a prime place to the well-being of animals. So when we are doing an animal welfare bill in a country like ours, well, we have to make sure that this animal welfare bill is indeed an animal welfare bill. Anything less, it wouldn't be an animal welfare bill. It can't be produced to appease a section of people who are using animals to make pure economic profit, and also legally getting them protected from the very same act which is supposed to be protecting the animals. They are getting legal protection from that, and they have manipulated it like that, to read it like that, throwing the entire Animal Welfare Act into utter confusion, and they have got that act now onto Parliament, and we are totally opposed to this. And also I would say this is also like an insult to Venerable Rathana Thera, who was the first to present it to Parliament. So having said that, I would like to say that with these things in mind, the Law Commission, this is a government organization, Law Commission asked Mr. Senaka Veeraratna, a lawyer, to draft an Animal Welfare Act encompassing all these concerns, and which was done by him with a lot of input from a lot of very eminent people. And the animal welfare, this draft was completed in 2006. Then comes 2010 when Venerable Athureliya Thera presents this in Parliament. And then over various situations, this gets dragged on, and we reached 2022. And then what is very unique about this 2006 draft and this 2010 act is that this is an act to protect animals from cruelties and not anything else. That is the primary reason for this act. Secondly, it had clauses that were making the people, the society, conscious of the need to be kind, to care, to be compassionate towards animals, and also be responsible for taking care of them as communities. And thirdly, there was an animal welfare, National Animal Welfare Authority that was established to look into all these cruelty aspects with a lot of power, with a lot of animal welfareists in it, and that too was one of the concerns. So this act in the draft act and the act both got international fame as one of the most noble documents that a country like ours could have produced, and then it was really looked forward to by all Sri Lankans to get this act passed. In the meantime, this has got metamorphosed into an Animal Cruelty Act by 2022, and it has emerged now, and they are asking this to be passed as it is. I don't know whether anyone knows the contents of it. We are going to lay bare the contents of this document today. By these two legal lawyers will do that. So we are not talking about non-facts. These are factually based observations. And then now this, we are taking this opportunity also to present to the media a book we published summing up everything in the act, comparing it with the 2006 draft and the 2010 act which was presented to Parliament. We would like to launch it today, and Mr. Senaka Veeraratna is the author of it, and we would like to make a statement that we launch this book today. So having said that, I will conclude my presentation. I would like to say, okay, let's say this act is passed. I don't know, I may be wrong, but it's worthwhile the legal draftsmen, the authorities, legal authorities look at this act whether it's in violation of the constitution. Second reason is, we will as a primary main Buddhist nation, country, we will join 5 countries in the world which do not have animal welfare acts. Those are Iraq, Sudan, Lebanon, Ethiopia and Somalia. So we are, as a Buddhist nation, we are going to join them as the 6th nation without an Animal Welfare Act. I am saying that with responsibility, because the current Animal Welfare Act is no Animal Welfare Act. It's a very cruelty, obsessed with cruelties and how to gain economic gains from performing anything to these animals, no protection at all. So finally, I would like to say, the world is looking at us like they were looking at us during Saksurin's taking back to Thailand. This will be worse. This is the pinnacle of a country's animal welfare. This is the pinnacle of how we care for our animals. So foreigners will look at it. They are already concerned about the way we treat animals. And this, if we get the government stamped document, this will be if it gets passed. Srimati Maneka Gandhi has directly asked President to not to pass this act. Our sentiments is also that, and we would like to make this opportunity to make sure that the entirety of Sri Lanka, I would appeal to you all to make the people in this country knowledgeable about this draconian act against animals. Thank you very much.